Alright, hello everyone, good morning, welcome to another video. I am your friend Nishko and you are watching Daily Dose of Tech. This is a playlist where I come and talk about for 30 to 60 minutes on one specific topic. And today's topic that we are gonna covering is the kind of a continuation topic which we already started. That's Azure Bicep, and we will be talking about today the next few keywords that is very important in Azure Bicep. But before we do start, I'm gonna just start the timer so that we can finish this on time. So it's gonna be 59 minutes and I'll start. So basically this is the pattern that we follow every time. We start the timer for 60 minutes and we just go impromptu discuss and I teach for 60 minutes. Now before starting, if you would like to join me on any of the other platform, then you are free to subscribe my YouTube channel. You can always reach out to me on Instagram and just give me 1 second. Yeah, if you want to connect me professionally, you can always connect via LinkedIn. If you want me to ask anything on X, you're free to ask. All the codes and everything that we are seeing it here, you can access from GitHub, and all the this is the main thing. We are building up the very big tech community here on Discord. So if you want to join and meet fellow developers to learn from the Azure, please feel free to join. There's a specific section going to be for Azure where you want to understand everything and people will help you out. All right, moving to the next topic. We started with Azure Bicep, then we looked at different ways to deploy Azure Bicep. What are the benefits of Bicep? We have everything covered. Now we also understand what are the deployment scope. This is really important because you need to define that in which scope your Azure environment is going to be uploaded. Then we discussed about Azure Provider and Azure Types. Azure Provider and Azure Types are kind of Azure Provider and Azure Types is I have already explained, but I always keep forgetting about it, so I have to come up with a good definition of it. So Azure Provider is kind of a group of resources which takes care of the APIs and the properties that you for that specific group of resources. For example, different type of services are combined to be under combined and maintained by one of the provider, and that provider is called Azure Compute. So it's the responsibility of the Azure Compute provider to maintain the API version, maintain the properties, release new versions. So they take care of all the values of those types. So under the Azure Compute, we have Azure VM, Azure Image, Azure Disk, Azure virtual machine skill set, everything. Then we started with Azure Bicep, how to install. Then we wrote our first Bicep file. Then we deployed it via our one of the command of deployment on the subscription level. And we then discussed a lot about Azure resource name and deployment name. Now working with the parameter file that we started, we discussed few of the Bicep keywords that are really important, which includes some data types, then how to define variable, resources, outputs, modules using, right? So we worked on these things. These are what you're seeing right now on the screens are the Bicep data types, and importing and using is going to be our today's topic. So basically before I move to the VS Code files, I just want to explain that what's the difference between import and using. And so basically the import is used when you have defined some of the features of your file from in another Bicep file. For example, what we can do is that you can define some of the custom properties, like or maybe you can define your configuration in a different file, and you want to read those values here in your main file. Then you have to first import that file. For example, what I used to do, I used to define all the IPs, all the variables, everything, all the names in one of the file, and so that I can be consistent, I used to import that in different bicep file, and that I will and that I kind of instead of rewriting it every time, I used to just I used to kind of import it from that bicep file, and that's how you use the import thing. uh, all right, now when it comes to using is basically is mainly used when you want to refer another bicep file, and if you want to provide your so if you want to refer a bicep file in your parameter file, you have to use the using keyword, and that we have already seen. And we deployed resource group and route table using a parameter file, and there I'll show you that there I'll show you that we already started using bicep, using rt.bicep. So what it does is it just refer to that specific bicep file where your properties are coming from. So that's how we did. Now these are not too big keywords that I would like to explain and take a time of a long time to deploy things, and not a long time to kind of explain this. I would like to move to the next topic, which is called user defined types. And what does it do? That user defined types is basically in bicep you have already seen the defined types. And what are the defined types? I'll just go back. These are the defined types. Basically these are built in by Microsoft Azure, and it includes any, array, booleans, integer, object, string, union types, nullable, securing strings and objects. All these keywords that you're seeing right now, these are part of system defined types. So basically types are of two types. It sounds little tongue twister, but types in bicep, it's not a big concept like in any other programming language. There is a system types, and then there is a user defined types, and it obviously making sense that system defined types are kind of constant key, like kind of some fixed keywords. Let's say 7 to 8 keywords are there, and these are defined by bicep itself. And here user defined types are defined by user itself. Obviously this is not a big deal, but user defined types are defined by bicep, and there is a certain way that you have to use. So basically when you have to define your type, you have to use the keyword type and give it a name, and that name will be is gonna be sufficient, or you can assign some of the values to it with the union thing. And what you can else do, you can put some description about that type. You can also put what are the constraints allowed, and in this way. So I'll just show you an example of how we can achieve this and create our own custom file in the route table, which we have already seen right now. So as you know that this virtual appliance can have a lot of different values, right? So we can create our one type which will allow us to use only that thing. For example, I'll go to here and I'll open route table official deployment file, and it will give me this thing. And yeah, so if you see here the values, these are the values provided by the route table. What we will be going to do, we will be creating our own types. Based on these values. So how to do it? You have to go to your bicep file and start writing about start with type. I'll just try to put it here. I'll just use type, and what we are basically deploying, next hop type. Okay, so let's say next hop type. And so if you do this, it's still working, because let me take you to the example. So basically you have to use your expression. So if I do this, I can just provide string and it's gonna work. How it's gonna work? That in the route, when we are going to define, so basically the structure of the routes itself is looking like this, right? It has all these properties. I'll just try here and I'll update it here. So these have a kind of a string property. I'll just somehow I'll remove it. No, this has a string property. I cannot define it, right? So it's not allowing it, because object always has to be written like this. Okay. Right, what I can do is that let's say let's keep it string only. What I can do is that this is a string itself. Next hop type is a string itself, but what we can do, we can replace with another variable, which I'm gonna write next hop type. As you can see, it's gonna define it here, but it's giving that the symbol cannot be referenced. Only other parameters can be referenced in parameter. Default next hop refers to a type that is being used as a value here. So here it's not having its own kind of some value, but what I'll be doing is that virtual appliance I will be updating. Okay, so basically we have to define our type over there. So virtual appliance, and this is a string type. Okay, how it goes. I mean, let me try to create type route. Let's say I'm creating a route type, which is going to be an object, and that object will be going to have an ID of type string, a name of type string, properties of type object, and inside the property I will be providing all these values. All these values, and this itself can be turned to string, this itself can be turned to string, this itself can be turned to string. Now how this is gonna benefit us is that I can provide those values as virtual appliance. I can provide that value which are allowed here, which Microsoft eventually gonna use. Let me copy it from here, and I'll go to my tag internet, and then I will use none. I will use virtual network gateway. I will use vnet local. All right, so these are the values required from here. Now because in the array itself we have used the route, let's say route config type. So route parameter, which is eventually accepted here in the bicep that you are seeing it here, that route array is consist of these objects, right? and that specific object I have defined its own type. And this is not something very serious or very important, I'll say, but the type, defining your own type and knowing how to define your own type can help you organize your properties. And it is just needed because when you start working on your bicep is going to be super big, so you need a way to organize things and make it maintain. So what you can do is that you can just create an array of type config type like this. Okay, so you can just define not an array but an route config type, right? So that your route type is gonna be like this, and you have to use you have to use the value from here only, and you cannot use anything beside this. So you can, and to give that information, you can put description. You can put description for this specific type, that this property property is allowed to use only the virtual appliance. I'm just writing it here. Then internet, then none, then gateway, or wait or vnet local. I know I'm not kind of explaining things in the organized way, but that is whole purpose of this specific playlist, is that I will try to explain one topic, and I am gonna come up soon with another how can I say, another dedicated playlist on the Azure Bicep, and whatever I am learning that this needs to be taught before something, or how much example I need to show, I'm gonna keep it a super simple topic. So that's how I provided the description of this. This is just a way to maintain, and you can also write a description. You can also write a description for your type, that description. So this property provides the routing rules, and that this is just your internal. You do not have to kind of because you are creating your own type. You are not bringing something from Microsoft, right? So you can have it write about your own type, and you can define your own description. So basically whatever I have written is that it's going to contain an object, and these are the things that it will be going to have, and that's how you can just organize your file. I'll just gonna format it in a bit. For formatting, you can press Option, Shift and F. That's what I used. So yeah, okay, now having this in our route, it's already giving me a route type, but it's not defining what is a route type. So basically what I can do, I can take out this thing, and that's how we are going to organize our file. We can take out this thing, and we can write our kind of variable route something one, because there we can have a lot of routes. So that's how we are gonna organize it, and I can give it a route type in the parameter if it's not, so it's kind of not allowing, right? But I will be writing that here, and this way I can write it route 1. So we can define all the values here, and it will be used by it. Oops. Wait, what I did. It will be used by it. So and you can now start writing your own parameter, more and more variables. So I have not show you how to write variables, but this is a way you can define your variables and you can organize your file. And for example, if I wrote it here none, it's going to be another route underscore 2, and you can write your parameter. And let's see how to deploy. Let's see if my route is getting updated or not based on this. So I was having my already running command. I'm gonna clear everything and I'll start with what if, which basically shows that I am kind of checking if my configurations, whatever I have written, is gonna make what sort of changes. So obviously I'm not sure about the second route because it's gonna give me a complaint, which I can see that for second route cannot be specified field, only specified for next hop type of virtual appliance. The template deployment is not valid according to the validation process, and it says that the next hop address 1105. Okay, so basically what they are saying, that if you are using the type none here, where is that? If you're using a type none here, then this is optional. So kind of I have to remove, but when I'm removing it, this might complain because see here it's gonna complain because it's following the route type. So I have to go here and I have to put it string optional so that it can just remove that thing, and I will add this statement for us to understand that this is how it's gonna work. This property is used to mention about the next hop IP. If you are using none as your next hop, I'll just move my head a bit, as your next hop, ignore the type. Okay, now if we move it here, now it's validating because it do not want us to have next hop address type, which obviously makes sense. If your next hop is none, you do not want to pass that to anywhere, you can always write it as none, and you do not need to provide the extra information of the IP because there's no IP for the none, right? So this way you can just try it again. And let's see, hopefully this will be making sense. And I learned one more thing, that I can ignore this optionally as well, which is very needed for me. So routes cannot, obviously, okay, that totally makes sense because these are rules, we cannot have the same rules. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna modify it again, and I'll just try one more time. Perfect, looks good. So it's going to create a route which is gonna use the disable peering route option, and I just want to take a moment to explain this. We are adding route that it shows to it that we are adding route 2 in the in our routes, but it's kind of disabling the propagation as false. I'm not sure why it's doing that. Properties disable peer routing none. Disable peer routing to none. I do not know why it's doing none here. What is disable peer routing? I do not know. Let me just quickly check. What is the disable peer routing in Azure? What is disable peer routing in Azure? Route table. Okay, so in the route table, change, delete, create, change or delete a route table. Azure automatically routes traffic with Azure signals. Virtual networks and on-premises networks. If you want to change your default routing, you do so by creating a route tables. If you are configure routing in virtual, you can use the virtual traffic available. Okay, if you get it creating a route table, then we created a route table. Route table got created. Then we use the route table command in the PowerShell or various ways that it does. View details of a route table. That's setting route. We can see the route tables, and to learn about the issue, the information tag logs automation script that we can do. Change a route table. Go to this and property. Okay, and disassociate. We can do associate a route table to a subnet that we can do via this, and then none select save. If your virtual network is connected to VPN gateway, don't associate a route table to your gateway subnet that includes a route with the destination of users, so doing so prevent the gateway from functioning properly. For more information, use that is something specific. Dissociate your route from from a subnet that I understand. Deleting a route table that I understand, but why it's I did not get what is this property gonna do, what this property going to do, which is disable peer routing. Peering routing, it's a create manager configure a subnet peering and save. I do not know. Okay, configure Azure route tables and save is required to run the playbooks. You can install and save and configure a route table. Name task name Azure route table to a subnet. Not sure. I have to take a look at it, but what I'll be doing is that let me upload this and remove the what if, so that we can check the deployment. And as we learned from our previous session, that we for each deployment we should update our deployment name so that we can see a new entry. So I'm just going to do it with 03, and it's always better to kind of bring it to the end so that I can just edit. But let me just start deploying, and I'll go to the portal.azure.com and yeah, so it's kind of switching directories. I have to my super duper. Let me bring my authenticator. Alright, so we have seen that, and it should be in our first resource group, and here should be our deployment. If you see, we have a new entry RT003, so that is explaining that we have successfully deployed our resource, and we'll go here and see our second route. So if you see here, it's properly telling that the new route has been added, and That's how it's seen. So that's how we use types. Definitely there is more that we can come and modify, because a lot of situations comes where you have to write your own types in a way that maybe if you want to pass your bicep file to a third party team, you have to write your bicep in a way that only that the parameter which they are going to use is only going to have the types that they should have a control, right? And that's how you kind of delegate the responsibility to them. But yeah, that's it for all for today's video. It was a short one, but we'll quickly start again on tomorrow's, and we'll keep our consistency in this way. um, yeah, let's connect tomorrow again with the same with some another topic on the bicep. I know this is kind of stretching, but I'll try to wrap everything in one more week so that we can start something new. Start something new, and we will be coming up with a dedicated playlist where I'll be keeping everything very short and as per my strategy of doing things in a more concise and in more better with some better notes. Thanks for everyone. Thank you for watching this, and we'll see you tomorrow.